kushango kusinathaba thaba dzone bendi madama basidzana wena obebonga ramba mai maliwani achishava Maria na ndala tumbuni iwe maila sumbya towele karirube da bodzambara mundi wa vana na varara wa marundu anodhara vathu avamwe achidhara mbeu ene ari ini noita masaka na nne idhani rinwe rile munono mupfemupfemu wa muthotho wa muvhuso wa demokrasi sa vana va muthu Renjerwa shango ngungununu tomboli fema othabanya tsime ndiwe bakolara ruvimba la nwali makonde aravura ndiwe phiri ya mavuvuredzi ikanda ongare na burondo wa mashite ukanda nduredze muwa enga chitiko gana areluve
There will Thank you very much. Thank you.
There
will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. Order. Honorable members, the President has called the joint sitting of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces in terms of Section 84(2)(d) of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, read jointly with Rule 71A in order to deliver his State of the Nation address to Parliament. I now call on the Honorable the President to address the joint sitting. The President.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly, Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, and Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Deputy President of the Republic, Honorable Kgalema Motlanthe, former Deputy President Baleka Mbete, Honorable Chief Justice of the Republic, and all esteemed members of the judiciary, honorable ministers and deputy ministers, distinguished premiers and speakers of our provinces, chairperson of SALGA, and all local government leadership. Chairperson of the National House of Traditional Leaders, heads of Chapter 9 institutions, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, leaders from business, sports, traditional, religious, and all sectors, members of the Diplomatic Corps, special and distinguished guests, honorable members, fellow South Africans. Good evening, Sanbonani, Molweni, Dumelang, Ripelile, Dima Tegwa, Hoinand. I wish to thank the presiding officers for this opportunity to speak to the people of South Africa on this occasion of the last State of the Nation address of the fourth democratic administration. I would like to extend our deepest condolences on the passing of the late Honorable Mr. Ben Skosana, one of the longest serving and most senior members of this august House, and our former Minister of Correctional Services. We are truly saddened by his sudden passing. Sidlulisa ukukhala kwethu emndenini wakhe nakumholi we-IFP umntwana uShenge kanye namalungu onke e-IFP. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, this is the first State of the Nation address to take place in the absence of our founding president, His Excellency Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. His passing on the eve of the 20th year of our freedom and democracy caused untold pain to our people and beyond our borders. We find solace in the knowledge that Madiba will live forever in our hearts, and that we have a duty to take his legacy forward. Honorable members, our country has produced men and women of distinction who have provided leadership during trying times. One such leader was Mr. Moses Kotane, former Treasurer General of the ANC and former South African Communist Party General Secretary. We are honored to have his dear wife, Mama Rebecca Kotane, as one of our special guests this evening. Mama Kotane turned 102 years old yesterday. And we wish her all the best. We also paid tribute to the former ANC President Oliver Reginald Tambo, who kept the torch of freedom alive both at home and abroad during the most difficult times of our struggle. His son, Dali, and his wife, Rachel Tambo, are sharing this occasion with us this evening. We salute Solomon Mahlangu, a brave young man who went defiantly to the gallows in 1979, where he was executed at the age of 23. He said, and I quote, "My blood will nourish the tree that will bear the fruits of freedom. Tell my people that I love them. They must continue to fight." Unquote. The year 2014 also marks the 40th anniversary of the cowardly murder through a parcel bomb of student leader Bram Onkgopotse Tiro in 1974 in Botswana. We welcome his brother, Mokgopotse Tiro, to this occasion today in this house. We express the gratitude of the people for his brother's selfless sacrifice. We remember those who died in state-sponsored violence of the 1980s and 1990s in our townships and villages. Ms. Jabu Ndlovu, a former shop steward of the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa, NUMSA, was gunned down in 1988 in Pietermaritzburg together with her husband, Jabulani, and their son. We welcome her daughter, Luhle, and son, Sanele, and pay tribute to all families who lost their loved ones across the political spectrum. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, we're able to overcome all that pain of the past and build a new society. We have built strong institutions of democracy. We buried the undemocratic, unrepresentative, oppressive, and corrupt state that was serving a minority. We formed a unitary state, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, answerable to and representative of all South Africans. We created a thriving constitutional democracy with well-functioning arms of the state, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. We have Chapter 9 institutions which support democracy and protect the rights of citizens. Liberation and democracy have also created space for an active civil society and a free media. Liberation also brought for the first time the promise of gender equality. The representation of women in public institutions has increased considerably since the dawn of freedom, and the extension of basic services also benefits women. All these attributes have made South Africa a much better place to live in now than it was ever been before. However, our country still faces the triple challenge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment, which we continue to grapple with. Dealing with these challenges has become a central focus of all democratic administrations. We elected to focus on 5 priorities: education, health, the fight against crime and corruption, rural development and land reform, as well as creating decent work. We also reorganized the state to improve performance. We created 2 key functions: long-term planning as well as monitoring and evaluation. We established the National Planning Commission, which produced the landmark National Development Plan, the country's socio-economic blueprint, and one of the major achievements of this 4th administration. The plan outlines what we should do to eradicate poverty, increase employment, and reduce inequality by 2030. Our monitoring and evaluation indicates that many services continue to improve. For an example, social grants and identity documents now take a shorter time to be processed. But many others still require further work. I'll report back on the 5 priorities, starting with the economy. On average, the economy has grown at 3.2% a year from 1994 to 2012. Despite the global recession, which claimed 1 million jobs, working together as government, business, labor, and the community sector, we nursed the economy to a recovery. The national wealth, measured in terms of GDP, has grown to more than 3.5 trillion rand. Jobs are now being created again. There are now There are now 15 million people with jobs in the country, the highest ever in our history. And over 650,000 jobs were created last year, according to Stats SA. This is still not good enough, as it is throughout the world. We are taking a number of measures, including the Employment Tax Incentive Act, which encourages employers to hire young workers. Regulations will be passed to ensure that this does not affect obtained in the National Youth Accord that was signed in Soweto last April. The expanded public works program and the community work program continue to be an effort for the past 5 years. Our people obtain an income and skills from public works program, which they use to seek formal employment. Our social assistance program, which now reaches about 16 million people, provides a safety for millions, especially vulnerable children. Imizi eminingi ithola ukusizakala ngenxa yezibonelelo zikahulumeni, imali yezingane, impesheni yabadala neyabakhubazekileyo. Lezi zibonelelo zizoqhubeka njalo ngoba imizi eminingi ithola ukusizakala ngoba amathuba emisebenzi ayivela kancane ngalezi sikhathi somnotho ontengantengayo. Lamathuba atholakala kuhulumeni enza sisho ngeqholo ukuthi iningizimu Afrika esiphila kuyo namhlanje ingcono kakhulu ukunaleyo esasiphila kuyo ngaphambili kuka 1994. Compatriots, we are still going through a difficult period. Developments in the United States economy have led to a rapid depreciation in the emerging market currencies, including the rand. During the course of 2013, the rand depreciated by 17.6% against the US dollar. The weaker exchange rate poses a significant companies, particularly in the manufacturing sector, should take advantage of the weaker rand and the stronger global recovery. While we have these difficulties, we know that we can cope with this period of turbulence. We have done so before in the past 5 years. We will, in fact, emerge stronger if we do the right things. We have to work what we need. Fortunately, this collaboration is already taking place. It is taking place at NADLEC, which is one of the key institutions of cooperation in our democracy between government, business, labor, and the community sector. Last year, I started engaging business on specific steps that government can take to make it easier to do business in our country. Arising out of that process, we have now streamlined regulatory and licensing approvals for environmental impact assessments, water licenses, and mining licenses. Parliament is finalizing amendments to the law to give effect to this very positive development, which will cut to under 30 days the time it takes to start a mine from application to final approvals. And labor. The purpose is to stabilize industrial relations in this very important sector of our economy. The process is yielding results. Strikes in the sector were fewer and shorter last year. And more importantly, industrial relations processes are taking place in a manner consistent with the law. We have intervened in mining because it is one of our key job drivers. We need a mining sector that works. Mining employs over 500,000 people. It is the biggest earner of foreign exchange in our country. It also contributes about 20 billion rand directly to the tax revenue. Mining also makes economies around the globe. We are exploring partnerships with stakeholders to address the issue of housing in mining towns. Let me also remind mining companies and to achieve a number of targets. Government continues to monitor and enforce compliance on both the company's social and labor plans and mining charter targets. Fellow South Africans, honorable members, let me, before passing this point, just underline an important point. The importance of economy, particularly to the mine owners and leaders of the unions. In no way can we have conflict that destroys the economy. I believe the mine owners care for their benefits, that the mines should operate, they should not stop. But I also equally believe that any leader of the union cares for the welfare of the workers. It must not be easy to make workers lose jobs. I believe trade union leaders, one of their interests is to ensure that workers have good conditions, they've got the wages that is decent, and they do not lose jobs. It's very important as we negotiate, try to find solutions to take all of these matters into account. Because at the end, if these two sides don't work together, even if they have different interests, it affects the economy of the country at the end. And we need to bear this in mind as we negotiate, as we agree on certain deals that we make as we negotiate. I just thought it's important to underline this. It must not be easy for anyone to say, let us strike, or for somebody to say, I'm now reducing the workforce. All of us should think together. Other than mining, we had identified 5 other job drivers in 2009. These are tourism, agriculture, the green economy, infrastructure development, and manufacturing. The tourism industry has grown dramatically. In 1993, South Africa received a mere 3 million foreign visitors. By 2012, the figure had grown to 13 million visitors. We will continue to grow this industry given its potential for job creation. In 2012, we unveiled the National Infrastructure Plan led by the President through the Presidential Infrastructure Coordinating Commission. We have subsequently invested 1 trillion rand in public infrastructure over the past 5 years. Many of the projects are completed or are nearing completion. I will mention just a few. The Rea Vaya system in Joburg is now used by more than 100,000 Gauteng residents. Similar systems are being built in Cape Town, Tshwane, Nelson Mandela Bay, Buffalo City, eThekwini, and Rustenburg. The country's harbors and ports have been improved. We have built a 700-kilometer fuel pipeline from Durban to Gauteng to transport 4 billion cubic liters of petrol, diesel, and jet fuel a year. Close to 1,500 kilometers of new roads or lanes have been built. This progress in respect of roads reminds us of those who have served in this government before, who wanted the best for the country, such as our former Transport Minister, Mr. Dala Omar. His dear wife, Farida, is one of our guests this evening. The construction of new rail lines has started in Mpumalanga to ease the pressure of the roads. The Gautrain project is now fully functional and carries over 1.2 million passengers a month. The Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa will spend over 120 billion rand over the next 10 years to buy new trains. Transnet is implementing its massive 300 billion rand market demand strategy, building much needed transport infrastructure. To realize the economic potential of the Western Cape and the West Coast, we launched the Saldanha Industrial Development Zone and opened 2 new factories in Atlantis. To improve the water supply, 2 large new dams were completed, De Hoop in Limpopo and Spring Grove in KwaZulu-Natal, while phase 2 of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project is to be launched soon. Construction is continuing at the new power stations, Medupi in Limpopo, Kusile in Mpumalanga, and Ingula near Ladysmith, employing more than 30,000 workers. We continue to explore other sources of energy in line with the integrated resource plan for energy. The development of petroleum, especially shale gas, will be a game changer for the Karoo region and the South African economy. Having evaluated the risks and opportunities, the final regulations will be released soon and will be followed by the processing and granting of licenses. We expect to conclude the procurement of 9,600 megawatts of nuclear energy. Biofuels manufacturers have been selected and have started work. Honorable members, ours is indeed a country at work and is a much better place to live in. We must keep the momentum. Honorable members, more of our wealth is created through the internet or telecommunications. A 37,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable has been laid by the private and public sectors in the past 5 years. This will be significantly expanded in the years ahead. We are proud of our successes in science and technology. The construction of the first telescope of the 46-dish forerunner to the square kilometer array, the Meerkat, will be completed in the first quarter of 2014. Cheers. Honorable members, our incentives to boost manufacturing have yielded returns. The automotive investment scheme that was launched in 2009 has approved a total of 3.8 billion rand worth of incentives for about 106 investment projects. These sustain more than 50,000 jobs. The companies will be developing sedan cars, minibuses, taxis, and buses. We have established the clothing, textile, leather, and footwear sector, which had been shedding jobs. Several industries have been designated for local content. These include buses, canned vegetables, clothing, textiles, leather, and footwear, and other goods. We have concrete example of the success of the localization program. In the past 2 years alone, more than 20,000 minibuses, taxis, and 330 buses were assembled locally, drawing investment and development to our cities. In the next 5 years, the state will procure at least 75% of its goods and services from South African products. Fellow South Africans, we have to work more intensively to develop emerging or black industrialists. Many of the aspirant black industrialists complain about the difficulties they experience in obtaining industrial finance, supplier and retail markets, and technical production support. The National Empowerment Fund, the Industrial Development Corporation, and the Small Enterprise Finance Agency will continue to provide finance to viable black-owned businesses to promote industrialization. In addition, we encourage established businesses to support the development of black industrial businesses. Agriculture is a key job driver and a provider of opportunities for entrepreneurship. Our agricultural support program, FESATLALA, is producing brand new exporters. The first 88 smallholder farmers in this program supplied the United Nations World Food Program with 268 tons of maize and beans to send to Lesotho last month. We expect this number to increase. We'll continue to promote our fisheries sector as well, which contributes an estimated 6 billion rand to the economy and provides 27,000 jobs. Honorable members, we have made good progress in the land reform program. Since 1994, nearly 5,000 farms comprising 4.2 million hectares have been transferred to black people, benefiting over 200,000 families. Nearly 80,000 land claims totaling 3.4 million hectares have been settled and 1.8 million people have benefited. The next administration will need to take forward a number of policy, legislative, and practical interventions to further redress the dispossession of our people of their land. These include matters relating to the establishment of the Office of the Valuer General and the reopening of the lodgement of claims. Honorable members, South Africa is indeed a much better place to live in. Let me now report on our social transformation program. Education is a ladder out of poverty for millions of our people. We are happy, therefore, that there is a huge increase in the enrollment of children in school from pre-primary to to tertiary level. The number of children attending grade R has more than doubled, moving from about 300,000 to more than 700,000 between 2003 and 2011. A draft policy framework towards universal access to grade R has been gazetted for public comment with a view to making grade R compulsory. Bakwethu, izingane ezingu 8 million azikhokhi esikoleni. Kanti ezingu 9 million zithola ukudla okunempilo ezikoleni. Okuphuma kuhulumeni. Ukuze zifunde kahle zingabulawa indlala. The matric pass rate has gone up from around 61% in 2009 to 78% last year. And the bachelor passes improve each year. Through the annual national assessments, we keep track of improvements and interventions needed, especially in maths and science. To promote inclusivity and diversity, the South African Sign Language curriculum will be offered in schools from next year, 2015. This will be done as from next year. We have increased our numbers of literate adults through the Kari Kude program from 2.2 million in 2008 to 3 million people. We have also been investing in teacher training and are reopening teacher training colleges to meet the demand. To produce a decent learning environment, we have delivered 370 new schools, replacing mud schools and other unsuitable structures around the country. That program continues. We have a good story to tell. We have a good story to tell in higher education as well. Student enrollment at universities increased by 12%, while further education and training college enrollments have increased by 90%. We have increased the budgets of the National Student Financial Aid Scheme to 9 billion rand to meet the rising demand. Another major achievement of this term has been the establishment of 2 brand new universities, Sol Plaatje in the Northern Cape and the University of Mpumalanga. We will also build 12 new FET colleges in Limpopo, Mpumalanga, KwaZulu-Natal, and Eastern Cape. Compatriots, the launch of the National Education Collaboration Framework last year was an important development for the country. We wish the team well in their national duty. Honorable members, we have a good story to tell in the improvement of health care too. Over the past 5 years, 300 new health facilities have been built, including 160 new clinics. Ten new hospitals have been built or refurbished in Ladybrand, Germiston, Mamelodi, Natalspruit, eThekwini, Zola, Bojanala, Vryburg District, Swart, Rachen, Khayelitsha, and Mitchell's Plain. As well as Uppington. Yes, there's a new hospital as well. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, the HIV and AIDS turnaround is one of the biggest achievements of this administration. And we are used as a model country by the United Nations AIDS program, UNAID. Mother-to-child transmission of HIV has declined sharply, and we have doubled the number of people who are receiving antiretroviral treatment from 1 million to 2.4 million people in 2013. More than 20 million South Africans have taken the HIV test since the launch of the campaign in 2011, which indicates confidence in the health system. Life expectancy is now firmly on an upward trend. South Africans are now living longer. The target for the next administration is to ensure that at least 4.6 million people are enrolled in the antiretroviral program. We acknowledge the contribution of the South African National AIDS Council for the hard work. While celebrating our successes, we must not be complacent. The prevention work must still continue so that we can reach that goal of zero HIV infections sooner. At a broader level, we will enter a new phase in the implementation of the National Health Insurance Program, which will extend quality health care to the poor. Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Honorable Speaker, the overall crime rate has decreased by 21% since 2002, and work is ongoing to make communities safer. One of the key focus areas is to eradicate violence against women and children. We have introduced a number of measures to respond to this challenge. These include the reopening of the Family Violence, Child Protection, and Sexual Offences units, as well as the Sexual Offences Courts. We thank the many NGOs that promote the rights of women and children who contribute positively to this important work. Honorable members, our country continues to be the target of rhino poachers. Our law enforcement agencies are working hard to arrest this scourge. We have also reached agreements with China, Vietnam, Kenya, Mozambique, and other SADC countries to work together to stop this crime. We thank the business community and all South Africans who participate in the campaign to save the rhino. Compatriots, the independence of the judiciary has been further enhanced by the establishment of the Office of the Chief Justice as a separate institution from the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. We have passed several pieces of legislation to support this new role of the the Office of the Chief Justice. Progress is being made in the transformation of the judiciary to reflect the race and gender demographics of this country. The Chief Justice of the Republic continues to champion and lead this transformation. Black judges, African, Indian, and colored, now constitute 61% of all judges. However, the acute underrepresentation of women on the bench remains a major concern. Of the judicial establishment of 239 judges, only 76 are women. The challenge is to transform the legal profession broadly in order to nourish the pool from which female judges can be appointed. The finalization of the legal practice bill will assist to broaden the pool from which potential judicial officers could be selected. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson, South Africans are united in wanting a corruption-free society. Fighting corruption within the public service is yielding results. Since the launch of the National Anti-Corruption Hotline by the Public Service Commission, over 13,000 cases of corruption and maladministration have been referred to government departments for further handling and investigation. Government has recovered more than 320 million rand from perpetrators through the National Anti-Corruption Hotline. Some of the successes of the National Anti-Corruption Hotline include the following: 1,542 officials were dismissed from the public service. 140 officials were fined their 3 months' salary. 20 officials were demoted. 355 officials were given final written warnings. 204 officials were prosecuted. To prevent corruption in the supply chain system, government has decided to establish a central tender board to adjudicate tenders in all spheres of government. This body will work with the Chief Procurement Officer, whose main function will be to check on pricing and adherence to procedures as well as fairness. The Special Investigating Unit is investigating maladministration or alleged corruption in a number of government departments and state entities through 40 proclamations signed by the President during this administration. We will keep the public informed of the outcome of the investigations. In the first 6 months of last year, the Asset Forfeiture Unit paid a total of 149 million rand into the criminal assets recovery account and to the victims of crime. This is 170% above its target of 55 million rand and is higher than it has ever achieved in a full year. Last year, the competition authorities investigated large-scale price fixing in the construction industry and fined guilty companies 1.8 billion rand. Further steps against those involved are now underway. Honorable members, I would now like to touch briefly on the provision of basic services to our people. Over the past 20 years, remarkable achievements have been made in increasing access to services such as water, sanitation, and electricity. Government has begun an intensive program to eliminate the bucket system as part of restoring the dignity of our people. Phase 1 of the program will eradicate buckets in formalized townships of the Free State, Eastern Cape, and Northern Cape. Phase 2 will eradicate buckets in informal settlements in all provinces, in housing about 3 million housing units and more than 855,000 serviced sites were delivered since 1994. Nearly 500 informal settlements have been replaced with quality housing and basic services over the past 5 years. The next administration will promote better located mixed income housing projects. Compatriots, some communities still do not have these services, especially in informal settlements and rural areas. We are therefore working with all spheres of government to ensure the provision of these services, especially in the 23 municipalities with the greatest number of bedlocks. In last year's State of the Nation address, I raised my concern with the manifestation of violence in some of the protests taking place in our country. Violent protests have taken place again around the country in the past few weeks. Also worrying is what appears to be premeditated violence, as is the case with the use of petrol bombs and other weapons during protests. The democratic government supports the right of citizens to express themselves. The right to protest peacefully and unarmed is enshrined in the Constitution. However, when protests threaten lives and property and destroy valuable infrastructure intended to serve the community, they undermine the very democracy that upholds the right to protest. The dominant narrative in the case of the protests in South Africa has been to attribute them to alleged failures of government. However, the protests are not simply the result of failures of government, but also of the success in delivering basic services. When 95% of the households have access to water, the 5% who still need to be provided for feel they cannot wait a moment longer. Success is also the breeding ground of rising expectations. Let me also add, honorable members, that any loss of life at the hands of the police in the course of dealing with the protests cannot be overlooked or condoned. Loss of life is not a small matter. We need to know what happened, why it happened. Any wrongdoing must be dealt with and corrective action must be taken. Police must act within the ambit of the law at all times. Having said this, we should also, as a society, be concerned that between 2005 and 2013, close to 800 police officers were killed. The police are protectors and are the buffer between a democratic society based on the rule of law and anarchy. As we hold the police to account, we should be careful not to end up delegitimizing them and glorify anarchy in our society. The culture of violence originated from the apartheid past. We need to conduct an introspection in our efforts to get rid of this scourge. As leaders from all walks of life, we must reflect on what we did or did not do to systematically root out the violence that surfaced in protests during the early days of our democracy. We have a collective responsibility to build a society that respects the rule of law, respects one another, and which respects life and property. We should work together to rebuild Ubuntu and a culture of responsibility in our society. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, a decision has been taken to improve functioning of local government. The amendment of the Municipal Systems Act is intended to improve the capacity of municipalities to deliver services. Qualified and experienced personnel must be deployed in municipalities. We also need to strengthen existing forums of people's participation and enable our people to play a greater role in development. The fight against corruption must be intensified as well, especially given reports that some services are interrupted or stopped so that certain people could provide those services at cost to the state. These matters are being prioritized for the next administration. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chairperson of the NCOP, Democratic South Africa's foreign policy was shaped many decades ago during the fierce international campaign to isolate the apartheid state. ANC President Oliver Tambo played a key role in that regard, assisted by, among others, the late Johnny McCartney, former head of international affairs. His wife, Mrs. Valerie McCartney, is one of our honored guests this evening. We have worked hard to strengthen support for the African Union, SADC, and all continental bodies whose purpose is to achieve peace and security. We have also prioritized the promotion of regional economic integration, infrastructure development, intra-African trade, and sustainable development in the continent. This year, We also submitted our third country report to the AU African Peer Review Mechanism, which was well received. We continue to support peacemaking and conflict resolution. Progress is being made in negotiations between Sudan and South Sudan on outstanding issues following the secession. Following requests from Sri Lanka and South Sudan for assistance in bringing about peace and reconciliation, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa has been appointed as South Africa's special envoy to the two countries. His expertise in conflict resolution and negotiations, as well as our country's experience in this regard, will greatly assist the two countries to resolve their problems. We will continue to strengthen relations with Europe, North America, Latin America, Asia, and countries in the South. Participation in international multilateral forums such as the G20 have been beneficial for the country. And joining the Brazil, Russia, India, and China group in December 2010 counts as among the key achievements of the fourth administration. It was also a great honor to host the 5th BRICS Summit on the 27th March 2013 in Durban, which saw the participation of African leaders to discuss developmental cooperation with BRICS. We will continue to serve diligently in the United Nations in promotion of strong international governance. We'll also continue promoting the reform of the UN Security Council and global financial institutions. Honorable members, as president of the COP17 CMP7, United Nations Climate Change Conference, which was hosted in Durban in 2011, South Africa successfully placed the world on an sustainable course through the adoption of the Durban Platform for Enhanced Action. Compatriots, over the past 20 years, we have hosted a number of international sporting and cultural visits, which has helped to boost social cohesion and unity. In the past 5 years, South Africa hosted the highly successful 2010 FIFA Soccer World Cup and other key soccer, rugby, and cricket tournament, which left a tangible feeling of pride and unity among all South Africans. As we celebrate 20 years of freedom, we will do so having done well in building a new heritage landscape for our country. A number of new museums and monuments were established, including the statue of former President Mandela, which has become a landmark in the Union buildings. More than 2,000 geographical names have been changed in order to correct the ill naming of places, as well as to give communities the right to determine the names of their areas. Honorable members, allow me to acknowledge some of our compatriots who are making their mark in the world. We congratulate Ladysmith Black Mambazo on winning their 4th Grammy Award last month. We welcome the group leader, Mr. Joseph Shabalala, one of our guests this evening. We also acknowledge Ms. Yvonne Chaka Chaka, who is one of our guests this evening as well. She's doing a lot of good work as the United Nations Children's Fund Goodwill Ambassador for malaria in Africa, and also the United Nations Millennium Development Goals Special Envoy for Africa. Ms. Chaka Chaka was also honored with the Crystal Award by the World Economic Forum in Davos for her humanitarian work. We also recognize in her absence our Oscar Award winning Hollywood star, Ms. Charlize Theron. Ms. Theron is also the UN messenger for peace. She also champions the fight against AIDS, especially among the youth and young women. She was also honored by the World Economic Forum with the Crystal Award. Compatriots, you would have noticed that in this SONA, we have given a report of the past 5 years in particular, and over the past 20 years in general. This is not an occasion to present the program of action for this financial year. That program will be presented by the new government after the elections. To prepare for that first State of the Nation addressed by the incoming administration later in the year, we have, over the past year, been working on a medium-term strategic framework. The framework has been designed as the first 5-year building block of the National Development Plan from 2014 to 2019. It also incorporates key targets of the Industrial Policy Action Plan, the New Growth Path, and Infrastructure Plan. The intention is to table the draft framework to the first cabinet, Lekgotla, after the elections. It will be refined by the new administration in line with its electoral mandate so that work can start as soon as possible after the formation of the new government. You can guess, I don't know. Who will be there? It has been an honor, colleagues, for my administration and I to build on the foundation laid by the first 3 democratic administrations to serve the people of South Africa. As a country, we have scored many successes. South Africa is a much better place to live in now than it was before 1994. We continue to face challenges, but life will also continue to change for the better. Nkosi sikelele Africa. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Order. I thank the Honorable the President.
Order. Order, honorable members. After I have adjourned the joint sitting, members and guests should please remain at their places until the procession has left the chamber. The procession led by the Sergeant at Arms and the usher will leave the chamber in the following order: the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the President, Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Deputy President, Secretary to Parliament. That concludes the business of the day, and the joint sitting is adjourned.
Sala.